Well, welcome everybody to the Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, who's playing Hurt, Gary Tanguay along for the Right podcast. As you can tell, their walls are better than mine. But Goody was bad in New Orleans, shall we say.
Or good in New Orleans.
However, he had a day pass. So it may show in his performance today. All right, we got a lot to do today. We're going to do NCAA. We got to get into the Brooklyn Nets. The Lakers are out. And also, we have a Bob Ryan story from years past, which I love. Okay, you guys, front row seat. Anyways, Jeff, I'll start with you. You're the college basketball guy. Just summarize this tournament for us, the comeback by Kansas, and your feeling of what we saw for a product.
Well, listen, we didn't think we could get a better game than Duke Carolina in the national semifinal, or at least one with as much oomph to it. And I don't know. To me, again, this Kansas title game was terrific. It lived up to the hype because they dug themselves the biggest hole in national title game history, came back and won it. And then to see Mark Emmert and Bill Self up there at the end was kind of interesting because Kansas, Gary, if you didn't know, they've been under an NCAA investigation for the last 5 years. They're going to get hit with something. I think it's going to be a Bill Self suspension next year, prior to the start of next season. I hope that the NCAA stops hitting these teams with postseason bans because that affects players that were never there when the issues took place. So I think it'll be more hit towards Bill Self and Curtis Townsend. But listen, bottom line was the games were great. New Orleans was great. And to me, our sport was affected more than any other sport. There was no NCAA tournament 2 years ago. Last year, it was a shell of itself. I was there in Indy for 3 weeks. There was no atmosphere. When Baylor pounded Gonzaga, it was like it was empty. And I know on TV it was great, right? Like the Jalen Suggs, shot in the national semifinals to beat UCLA. Everybody's like, oh, my God, it was the greatest. Where does it rank as the top games? And I'm like, it was great. Honestly, it was better if you watched it on TV because there just wasn't that juice in the crowd. Well, this time the juice was back, and Bob can attest to that. Duke Carolina in the national semifinals was as good as it gets, and the national title game was pretty damn close.
Before we address Kansas and their championship, I need to take note and pay homage to my friend here. I did not know till I read Ian O'Connor's Coach K book, which I read in its entirety during this last 5 days, that Jeff Goodman officially broke the story of Coach K's retirement in Stadium. I did not know that. Congratulations. I did not know that until I read it near the tail end of the book. So,
yeah, I think Ian said to me, he put it in there and used my quote that I said to somebody that I knew it was 99.99% sure. I had 3 sources tell me. So I had one, I got a second, and Bob knows this is how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to have, unless you get it from the horse's mouth, you better have a second source, especially with something like this. I had it, Gary, and I'm not kidding. My hand was shaking. My finger was shaking as I hit the button, even though I knew it was 100% true. I wasn't worried, but a story of that magnitude, you're like, right. Like, and you knew the Twitterverse was going to change once I hit that button.
Well, and Ian wrote it that way. So congratulations. Now, at halftime of the championship game, I was so bummed out as a fan, purely as a fan. I didn't have a real horse in the race. I would live with either one. My team was Villanova, if I had an emotional attachment of the 4. And so I'm just there as a basketball fan enjoying and I'm saying, oh, this is a championship game. This is not right. This sucks. We wanted a good game. I was also thinking about it because I had a chance to meet with my former school mate, Bob Fishman, who was directing his final game after a 40-year career at CBS. I had met with him in the afternoon, and we had a nice chat. And you know, he was on record as saying he wanted double overtime, you know, and as a writer,
He didn't want his career to end quickly.
As a writer, the last thing I would have ever want is overtime on that deadline. But as a fan, okay, I said, fine. Anyway, and then we know what happened in the second half. We got a game. And I remember thinking when it was tied at a timeout at some point in the second half, saying, this is great. This is what we wanted. And we got it. And let's go down to the final minute. That Baycott injury was crucial in the end. And because I hate what I call loose ends, guys. You know, this is why I felt bad about Villanova. They didn't have Justin Moore. And yes, they got their ass kicked, but maybe Justin Moore would have guarded GB in the beginning of the game. And he doesn't hit 5 in a row, you know, and they don't get off to a 10-0 start. But anyway, and then if Baycott was there, maybe McCormick doesn't get such an easy.
It was so easy
to put the game away. Manic can't guard him.
No chance.
So anyway, that's too bad, but that's the life, you know. It was a suitable, you know, an exciting ending and all that, and that's fine. And you don't have. I took a picture of it, guys, because I was fascinated. You know, I'm a box score freak. I mean, baseball, basketball, I just looked up at the scoreboard, and the balanced scoring was so exemplary.
Right. Yes. Right.
Both ways. Yeah. Both ways. Yeah. Each team had 5 guys in double figures. Now, at that moment, Puff Johnson was on the bench, but he had 11, and Leaky Blacks was up there with his 2. But they had 4 guys between like 11 and 15, and Kansas had 5 guys between 10 and 15 up there. Nobody scored more than 15 points in the NCAA tournament. How about that? And I took a picture of this. I just wanted to have it. I mean, my God, this is team basketball. And that's why when most outstanding player came, I said, I'm glad I'm not a voter. There was
to be honest, and Ochai said this in the postgame. He basically said, listen, I would have given it to David McCormick. In retrospect, and I did say this later, yeah, if I had to put the proverbial Luger to my head, McCormick for the 2-game performance overall, you know. But, hey, if Remy Martin doesn't close out like Mariano Rivera, they don't win that thing either, you know. I mean, he was the closer. There's no question. That's the beauty. That was the beauty of the Kansas team, Bob. Like you said, Agbaji was their best player, first team All-American throughout the season, but everybody else kind of stepped up. I thought the kid DeJuan Harris early in the second half. Wilson was good. Everybody. But like Harris, to me, changed the momentum coming out of halftime. I was talking to Matt Painter at half, and he said to me, the first 4 minutes will decide this game. Obviously, we knew that because Kansas couldn't dig a bigger hole. And DeJuan Harris had 2 great defensive plays right away. And Christian Brown, who was awful in the first half, got kind of his confidence going. And they just snowballed. It was all about momentum. And
they got six quickies right away. Went from 15 to 9, boom. And we said, hey, we got a game. And
Caleb Love got hurt too. So, you know, it was kind of the perfect storm. I felt bad for Carolina to get that far, but I also felt good for Carolina to get that far because this was a team that was on the bubble 6 weeks ago, Gary. We didn't know if they'd even be in the tournament. And Hubert Davis I've become a fan of Hubert Davis. And I'm the one who said when he was hired, I didn't think it was the right hire at Carolina. I would have went with Wes Miller, the former New Hampton prep star, Bob Ryan, Wes Miller. And I would have went with him over Hubert at the time. And then Hubert hired a staff that I was kind of like, I don't love it. And then they underachieved for 90% of the year. And here's the best story of I don't know if you saw this, Bob, but Armando Baycott. We were in a press. I called them soft. I called Carolina soft back at the Mohegan Sun. Mm-hmm. So I grabbed the microphone, and this was before their game against Duke, the day before. It might have been Thursday, actually. It was Thursday, the first media availability. So I grabbed the microphone, and Baycott and his teammates are up there. And I see Baycott, before I even said anything, he starts to have this huge smile on his face. And I'm like, all right, here we go. So I said, hey, Armando, you know, some people, you know, called you soft back earlier this season. You know, what do you think of that or something like that? And he said, you know, I'm not going to lie. I was pissed off when you called us soft, and, you know, we didn't think we were soft, and it motivated us and this and that and the other. And he actually handled it great. And Armando's awesome. He was awesome.
So that's good.
Great kid. And I told him, I said, you're about as entertaining as anybody we've seen at the Final Four since Big Baby. And Big Baby was the ultimate showman back in the mid 2000s when it was actually him and Joakim Noah in the same Final Four. Imagine those two. Oh, yeah. They were, quote, machines. But here's what I was going to say about Hubert. So Hubert finishes talking, and I don't really know Hubert. Met him a couple times, but he's a guy that really took his role as an assistant at Carolina seriously, which meant in the Dean Smith days, you didn't deal with the media. You just did your job and you put your head down. So I really didn't have many dealings with him. Well, he calls me over through his sports information director after he finishes on Thursday. And I'm like, oh no, here we go. He's going to kill me for saying that he shouldn't have been the coach or whatever. And I go up to him and he says, hey, I just want to thank you. And I'm like, huh? He says, yeah, I want to thank you for calling us soft. We were, and we needed that. He's like, I could say that all I want. It's like with your own kids, right? You could say something to your own kids 100 times, but when somebody else says it, sometimes it has a different level of impact. And I think that was what Hubert had been trying to tell them and really couldn't get through to them, that they were playing soft overall and that they weren't fun to watch. And man, did he flip the script with them. I mean, they became fun to watch, playing with emotion, sharing the ball. They were awesome.
When
so it was cool.
Now, I remember thinking on multiple occasions over the 2 days, the two games, how this team ever lost, the number of games they lost, and what the transfer. I know they were 12.
And how they lost them, Bob. Not that they lost them. They were getting blown out in those games.
Right. Losing some multiple games by 20. Yes. Not just the Duke game, but I think Pitt, right? Pitt. Not to disparage Pitt, but Pitt. No. This year, this isn't the vintage Pitt. All right, let's address the semis and the fact that the game totally lived up to the moment.
Yeah,
totally. We got what we wanted, what the world wanted, what both teams wanted, and someone asked me a very interesting question in the aftermath, which was, do you think that if Coach K had to do it all over again, he would not have announced his retirement in the way he did it and the finals because of the pressure that obviously mounted on his team, which manifested itself obviously in the Carolina game and even in the Virginia Tech game? I said, no, and here's why. Because when they got to the tournament, they played their ass off. They played great. And right down to the final minute of the final game. And he couldn't ask for more than what they gave him. They didn't win the game, but it was a hell of a game. It goes down. It could have gone either way. So I'm just saying that team, whatever pressure they felt in that Cameron game and in the ACC title game, they had a great tournament. And right down, and they didn't win that. Anybody could have won that game against Carolina. It was truly a great game.
It was a great game. And again, I mean, for me, I was still in disbelief. I was in disbelief that they lost both of those games. The two big, how do you lose on Coach K night? You lose that one. Right. And I just felt like, all right, they're going to come back and I don't think they're going to smack Carolina in this one, but they're going to win. They got 4 pros on their team. They're more talented at just about every spot. How do they not win this one? But again, like Baycott was great in that one. He was hurt. Caleb Love was unbelievable. And that's the Caleb Love, the semis and the finals, that characterizes Caleb Love pretty well, right? He can be elite level in terms of how he scores and gets buckets. And then he can be that guy who goes 3 for 17 and shoots you right out of the game. Now he's going to have that swagger. I'm curious to know, Bob, your thoughts in the post game. And I know you weren't there, but I think you saw enough, heard enough. But my first question, I opened the press conference after Coach K's went in there, was the one you have to ask, right? Like, what were your emotions when you were walking off the court? It's the simplest question. It's the one everybody wanted to know. And I wanted to kind of get emotions from him. I wanted him to share with us kind of what he's thinking right now after his career is over. And he would not go there at all. He said, it's not about me. Well, it is about you, Mike. It is about you. And we wanted to hear the raw emotions, and he never came with anything.
Keeping with the plan, overall, he's made it clear, whatever he truly feels, but he's made it clear publicly that He's won them before. This group hasn't. This group, it's about these kids, and he's made that clear distinction.
But you can do both, Bob. You can do both. You can give your kids the credit and say how bad you feel for your kids, and also say, hey, you know what? I'm a human being here. Yeah. This is tough to digest.
I agree. That was the right question, and you would have hoped that you'd get the answer, and he wouldn't go there, and that's it's too bad. That's that.
Yeah. Well, the thing I witnessed is on Coach K night. He did the same thing. He kind of went, it was all about the game. It was just all about
he gave emotions, though. No, on Coach K night, Gary, remember, he came back, took the microphone and said,
he came back, but right after
I apologize. Remember, this was unacceptable. So he gave those emotions. And then after, in the post game, he was actually terrific. Like, nobody saw this with the media. He was elite level in the post. Now, he was good in this one. But again, everybody wanted to know.
Right.
The elephant in the room was, what are you thinking right now? Why aren't tears streaming down your face? Now, maybe he got that all out of the way in the locker room with his family. He's a military guy. But you talk to enough people that are in the program, former players, whatever, they'll say, this is an emotional guy. He's got great relationships with, again, I wonder, and I said this, and it's come out since, Jay Will said something too. I've heard rumblings in the last couple of weeks that he regrets his decision, meaning if he hadn't made it, he might want to coach another year. Now, it's going to be tough to pull a Tom Brady, I think, for him. And I'm not sure he's at that point where he's saying, I definitely want to come back. But I think talking to people, there were rumblings for the last few weeks that I've heard that were such of, hey, he might want to come back for another go around. And Jay Williams said this on air. I think I've said this for a few days about the rumblings. I think Jay said it on air yesterday or Sunday. I don't think it's going to happen, guys, but I wonder if that's why he didn't show any real raw emotion too, because maybe in his mind, he thought, hey, maybe I'm not completely closing the door on this thing.
Maybe, but I hope not. I hope not
too.
I don't know.
Right. I'm with you. Call it a career. You're listen, enjoy the time with your wife, with your family.
Yeah. Brady did that for a month. Brady did that for a month and he wanted back in. But there's more to that.
Brady's 40. The difference is Tom Brady's 44. 44?
Be 44, be 45 on August 3rd.
Coach K is in his mid-70s now. Like you don't need to work every day. Go out recruiting, all that stuff. It's a grind now. It's the reason Roy Williams retired when he did. Part of it, he didn't want to deal with the transfer portal. He didn't want to deal with name, image, likeness. He didn't want to deal with having to be somewhere every single day, a certain day, recruiting, flying all over the country to see a 16-year-old kid to kiss their ass. Like, Coach K, just go do what you want to do, whatever time you want to do. You want to sleep in? Sleep in. You want to go play golf? Go play whatever.
Yeah, well, that's true. And I hope he enjoys his life. Yeah, you're right. I know. We've said that earlier, elsewhere, before all this. I don't know why anybody want to coach in that atmosphere in either football or basketball any longer with the transfer portal and the NIL, the ramifications of which are we haven't even begun to see. By the way,
I have a question. If Duke makes the national championship, do they beat Kansas?
I say yes. I think they match up well. I thought they matched up well. And originally I picked Kansas to win the whole thing. And then I said, if they play Duke, I think it's a tough matchup because those small Kansas guards might have gotten eaten up by Duke's bigger, more athletic, bigger guards.
I think the three, even in a healthy Villanova too, if we had a round robin, anything could have happened. And I thought after watching the Duke Kansas game, if they played 10 times, it'd probably go 5-5. And the same thing probably goes true with Carolina and Duke, the way Carolina's playing now. No, they were very equal teams. And it was.
That's what made it fun.
Yeah. It was no outlier. The outliers make it interesting. Yeah, that's nice. But they never, win that that semifinal game. So anyway, now here's funny. I was thinking about this at the end. This is the time of the year when ordinarily we'd say, well, let's project who's going to be good next year, except we don't know who's going to be playing for anybody next year. So preseason predictions are, at this point, are impossible.
I tried that. So I put out my top 25. I'm Arkansas 1, Houston 2. How about that? I mean, Arkansas brings in an elite
Southwest
recruiting
Conference
class.
lives. That's
I'm
right.
going to give you my name that you have to watch for next year.
All right.
Okay. This could be the number 1 pick in next June's draft. Kid named Nick Smith, who's going to Arkansas. Write that name down.
I'm writing it down right now.
He is a big, strong, athletic 6'5" guard wing he'll be at Arkansas next year. Man, I saw him last year, and the first thing I thought about was like NBA. He's just got that game that is going to translate.
Where's he from?
I think he's from Arkansas.
Ooh.
I think he's an in-state kid. Eric Musselman's killed it on the recruiting trail. They got another kid named Jordan Walsh who plays hard. He's athletic. And Houston has everybody. Well, not everybody back. I shouldn't say that. They get their 2 best players who are hurt. Their 2 best offensive players, Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark back, who missed the whole second half of the season. And Keldon almost took him to the Final Four without those guys. So you're right, though. It's impossible to predict with all the uncertainty. It's kind of a mess right now in college basketball. I don't like it, but you got to accept it.
Here's the, because of all the discussion about the changing world, and it's completely changed and all that. The method, how you get to the Final Four, how you construct the teams, how you build, it's completely different than it was even 5 years ago. But once you're there, it's the same, right? Once you're there, when the 4 teams are there, I mean, the Final Four was the Final Four. It was the Final Four that you and I know. It's the one I've known since 1970 when I went to my first one. I mean, it's evolved. And I mean, that one, we all stayed in the same hotel. Everybody, all 4 teams, the media,
really
at the Shoreham Hotel in Washington, D.C. Wow. Everybody was there. And it was because it was Thursday night, Saturday afternoon. Yeah. That was the format at those days. And it was a different mom and pop thing in a sense, but the feeling, the buzz, and you're right about the atmosphere. And the championship game, and of course the Carolina Duke atmosphere was tremendous. And I mean, it was a Final Four, but how they get there is a lot different than it ever was. That's for sure.
The last thing, and then we'll move on. The last however many 5, 6 national title teams now. Villanova's won a couple. Virginia's won one. Carolina won one. Baylor. Now, obviously, Kansas. All older teams. You might have a freshman here or there, but for the most part, you've got veteran experience, and I think everybody realizes that. Duke made a run here, a deep run, but again, there's a big difference between winning 4 to get there and winning 6 to win it all, and nobody has won 6 over the last 6 NCAA titles without having a veteran team. So that's the way you win it all right now.
Right, very good. All right. Well, so
it's better basketball.
We'll put a lid on the college season.
All right, guys. Well, coming up next, we're going to talk about the Lakers and we're going to talk about the Brooklyn Nets, both headed in different directions. But first, I have to tell you about CODA. Here's the tough part during this whole pandemic and working remotely is staying on the same page with all your coworkers. Being spread across the country and trying to keep the team going in the same direction has been very tough to do. Now, here's what you do with CODA. You can take your best work, your workflow, your documents, your spreadsheets, everything, and you can bring it all together so everybody is literally on the same page. CODA is endlessly customizable and connected. Everything in CODA is sync. Make an update in the table and it automatically shows up everywhere. No more relying on copy and paste to keep linchpin projects current. Your team can operate on the same information and collaborate the same way with everyone whenever you want to, quickly and efficiently. With CODA, you can solve just about anything. And right now, you can get started having your team all working together on the same page for free. Head on over to coda.io/scribe. That's CODA.io to get started for free. Coda.io/scribe. Okay, now let's get to the big story here with the Lakers. Or as ML Carr said, the Fakers, way back when. So, Bob, I'll start with you. How surprised are you? How big of a disappointment? What does it mean for LeBron James?
Number one, that roster, and I wish we probably do have audio proof,
Wait, what was your, wait, can we revisit your off the camera reaction when we said the Lakers aren't going to be in the playoffs.
Yay!
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, come on, that's good. Now, okay, I got that off my. Thank you. I said from the beginning that roster was a lab experiment. That roster with all those AARP subscribers was a lab experiment, and let's see. I was skeptical that they would produce a champion at the very least. There's no way I thought, but did I think they would fail to make the playoffs with an expanded playoff format such as we now have? No. Now, one thing we knew from the start, we didn't know. We could turn the hourglass over always. When will Anthony Davis get hurt? And how long will it be out this time? Right. So that was always there. We also anticipated that the soon to be 37-year-old, which he turned last 30th of December, LeBron would miss some games, however many we didn't know, but that they probably knew that they were trying to bolster themselves with the roster of experienced people. Many of them have been there before, quote unquote, and that was going to be the way they were going to do it. The Dwight Howards, the Arizas, the Rondos, on and on, and we now know the lab experiment failed. Period. End of story. And so, I mean, isn't that the summation of it? I don't know. And Westbrook, no one figured he was going to fizzle out the way he has.
I'm looking at my tweets. I sent a tweet out. I remember. I'm looking at it right now on August 3rd. And after they got Westbrook, and I said the Lakers should be playing in a nursing home instead of Staples, and I got crushed for it by Lakers fans, crushed for it.
Oh, of course.
But
the thing that I enjoy about it, number one, the Lakers, even though as a Celtics fan, you can never root for the Lakers. Though I don't hate LeBron. I've always liked LeBron. I mean, people out there want to hate the guy. I don't hate the guy.
No,
I can't. You can't hate the guy. But my feeling is that it puts an end to the super team. I don't even want to say myth, but what we're going to do is we're just going to take the best players and they're all going to come play together, and that's the way it's going to work. Well, it's failed in Brooklyn so far, and then it blew up with the Lakers. Where you have teams like Memphis and you have teams like Miami, and you have teams like Chicago. I mean, Chicago's not on Miami's level, but you have teams that that it's not like a bunch of hired guns. So that's what I like about it. Is now GMs are going to sit back and they're going to go, okay, well, just because I bring in this guy and this guy, it's not an automatic. I mean, it happened in Miami, but other than that, hasn't worked.
Because it's changed. Well, because those dominant players in LeBron, there's only, I think you'd say 2 of them left, LeBron and KD.
Right.
I mean, I know obviously Giannis is Giannis and the Joker. Like, there's some great players, but none are at that level right now. LeBron, obviously, you watch him now, and age has really taken its toll on LeBron in the last year or two. But I think this year even more than any. Like, you just look at him and you're like, it really hit him over the pandemic.
With all those 35-point plus games, I mean, physically, I don't know.
Yeah, I still watch him, and he doesn't have that same gear that he has it at times. He can have it at times, but it's not there consistent.
No, but it's still amazing what he has left compared to whatever 37s I've ever had. Well, I agree with you. I think he wasn't a notch above everybody else. He was like 2 notches above everybody else. Right. Now he's with everybody else. That's the difference. Is he's in the same class, if even at the same class as Giannis, as some of these other guys. And 4 years younger, or at least he is at that level, and that's Durant. Durant looks as good as he's ever looked. And I still marvel at how effortlessly he floats around that court and makes it. And he's just a rare athlete who makes this game. He was born to play this game. The game makes sense to him. The game is, I'm sure he's worked his ass off to get who he is, but now the game is easy. It's all logical for him. He knows when to take a 15-footer. He knows when to take a 25-footer. Yes. He knows when to pass. He knows when not. Oh my God. The game just flows out of him.
The difference is LeBron could do it by himself before. He didn't need anybody else with him. Look at that team he got to the Eastern Conference Finals with Cleveland, right? Like, they weren't good. So now he needs guys.
That feat was his equivalent of Larry Bird taking the Indiana State to the championship game at 79 in college. That was the professional equivalent. Yes.
Yep. Okay, now but since you guys mentioned KD, getting to the Nets right now with Kyrie, and now he can play in every game. Yep. But he's starting to, we all know, and Jeff has said it, just what a dominant player Kyrie can be. When he wants to play, man, look out.
Oh. Yeah.
So to me, everything's changed in the East. Everything's changed. What do you guys think?
Well,
listen.
I'll start with Bob. Bob, go ahead.
They're loom. They loom over everything. They're like in that Woody Allen movie when they have the mother was up in the sky. They're looming over, and everybody's saying, "Oh my God, you don't want to be the team 2. You want to play in the net." No, somebody's going to have to play them. No, those two guys. I mean, like Kyrie had another 42 last night. Yeah. I don't know. I guess they figured it out for themselves. He took 24 shots, and Durant only took 13 shots.
Right.
Kyrie took some other night. Maybe it'll be the reverse. But anyway, they're going to be a proverbial tough out. They're not going to win the championship. Oh, I'll categorically say that.
Really?
I'll categorically say that and hold me to it.
You got to wait to see what Ben Simmons looks like when he comes back, Bob.
And now this is later in the playoffs.
You're not talking to a member of the Ben Simmons.
But we know
I know, but listen, I get it. Listen, the only thing I'll say is Ben Simmons, the only thing you worry about with Ben in Philly was you can't put the ball in his hands at the end of the game.
Now
you don't need to. You don't need to with Brooklyn. Give the ball to Kyrie.
Yeah.
At the end of the game. Ben never needs to touch it.
Right.
But Ben, for most of the game, doing this and defending at the highest level, which he can do, Bob, like it can work. I'm not saying it's going to. It can work with KD and Kyrie. It can.
I think the Eastern Conference playoffs, the West, I still think, I'm not a Utah guy. You've got Golden State, you've got, Phoenix, but the East, dude, with Brooklyn now, Jeff, and I'll let you respond on the next thing. I think Brooklyn makes everything wide freaking open. It's
well,
wide
you know what
open.
It does too? You know what it does, Gary? It makes the playoffs interesting without
No question.
Like you don't have LeBron now. We got to have a villain. Not to say LeBron was a villain to all of us, but he was LeBron.
Yeah.
But now you got that team people love to hate, okay, which could have been the Lakers. Now it's clearly Brooklyn. And, oh, by the way, they might get the Miami Heat, the number 1 seed in the actual first round of the playoffs. Like, I wouldn't want to be Miami and Jimmy Butler.
You got that right.
Miami, by the way, last night had 74 points off the bench.
Wow.
Yeah.
74?
74 of 144 off the bench, starting with Hero going in 35 off the bench. I mean, all right. So anyway, Miami's the number 1 seed. To me, it's Milwaukee is the favorite still.
Sure. I mean, they're the Kings right now, but boy, I'll tell you, sometimes in the NBA, we've said, okay, let's wait till we get to the finals or wait till we get to the conference finals. But, I think the NBA's got to be smiling because all of the games are going to be good.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of intriguing storylines, subplots. Oh, yeah. No, and the right people except for LeBron are still alive. And
I can't wait.
I think Brooklyn without Simmons can win it.
Well, I want to see him with Simmons. I just want to see him with Ben.
I understand. But, I mean, the thing about all of these guys, like Kyrie, Harden's another guy. If Kyrie balls and KD balls, I mean, man, I don't know. I hear you on Milwaukee, Bob, but, man, if those two guys are balling, I don't know. Going to be damn.
You got a lot of teams that have a chance when you take LeBron out of the equation and when you're throwing a Brooklyn Nets team as, having the second best player on the planet with KD, but they're dysfunctional and they're going to try to figure things out in the playoffs chemistry wise. So I think you might get listen, again, why can't people are sleeping on Golden State a little bit? Why can't they turn it on? and win this.
They can. Of course they can.
If anybody hasn't noticed, I'm just saying, you guys, Thompson, he had 30 one day the other day. He's apparently pretty close to his old self.
Yep.
So
There you go.
But Steph, has not yet recovered from that loose ball that Marcus Smart took from him, if you will. I don't know. I'm not. They could, and that'd be great. And then Draymond is he going to be Draymond? They must have Draymond. I'm not so big on them, but I'm bullish on the Suns. They're for real.
I'd like to see them win it. I like their team.
Oh, I would.
I like them.
They came in the league in 1968 8 with Milwaukee in 1968, 69. About time they got one.
Okay, to wrap things up, I love Bob Ryan's stories. And Jeff, this one was told to me by Dan Shaughnessy, and the reason I'm telling this story, Gene Shue, who coached Philadelphia and also Washington, I believe, has passed away at the age of 90. Now, this is when I fell in love in the NBA, when Shue was coaching the Sixers, and it was in the 70s, and then Bobby Jones, George McGinnis, and all these guys, and Hondo, and but this is an indication of the impact that and how in Bob Ryan was in the fabric of the NBA. I mean, it can't happen today because of accessibility. But I mean, and a lot of the Globe people were. Gammons was the same way. Will certainly McDonough with the NFL. I mean, he was the freaking commissioner, for God's sakes. But this story illustrates how in Bob Ryan was with the NBA. Bob writes a story about the officiating, and I think it was the Sixers-Celtics series. And this is when the media sat where they have all the rich people sitting now. They sat like right at center court. So there's like Bob always wanted to sit by the opposition because he wanted to hear what was going on the Sixer bench. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because he knew what was going on the Celtic bench. He wanted to know what was going on with the other guys, right? So Shaughnessy sits next to him. And then the ref comes down, makes a call, goes against Philly. Gene Shue turns around and says, "That's because of you, Bob Ryan."
All right. Now, the punchline's true. The genesis was this. He was coaching the Bullets for the second time. And Rick Mahorn, he was a thug. He was a rational thug, okay?
Enforcer.
And a tough guy. He was the original Filthy and McNasty was Rick Mahorn and Jeff Rulin, if you remember. Johnny Most. Okay. So something happened with Rick Mahorn, and I called up the official supervisor at the time. I forget who it was, whether it was Darryl or whoever. And I said, can you tell me if certain guys in the league get extra scrutiny from the officials, i.e. Rick Mahorn, because of he had gotten thrown out of a game for thuggery. And he said, well, truthfully, yes. And I wrote it. So then the next time the Bullets came in, I don't know how soon it was after, it may have been the ensuing week, I was indeed sitting in my usual seat next to the visiting bench. And in the first period or whenever it was, there was a foul on Mahorn, at which point Gene Shue did jump up and say, "That's your fault, Bob Ryan, your fault." So that's a true story.
I love that story. I mean, the other great story that Shaughnessy told too, this is when Bob went into the Hall of Fame, was you were talking during the game. DJ was dribbling the ball up and said, DJ turns to Bob, "Bob, you want to keep it down? I'm trying to play a game here." I mean,
Dan loves those stories. And what can I say? It was a different world, yes. Gene Shue, by the way, I hope they give him a proper send-off. I hope people understand he was a very prominent figure in the NBA for 4 decades. He was a 5-time All-Star player in the 50s, one of the great guards in the NBA in the 60s, excuse me. And then, he coached 5 different teams. He coached the Bullets in 69 when they won the regular season, and they people thought they were going to, well, anyway, Lundsold's rookie year. He coached them to the finals in 71. They beat the defending champion Knicks. I was there in New York when they beat them. And then he was a good guy. He was really a good guy. And a person to help build the league. So it's a big loss to the NBA community, Gene Shue.
Great way to end the podcast. A good old Bob Ryan story. Gentlemen, until next week, take care. Thanks for watching the Ryan Goodman Tanguay Along for the Ride podcast.